Thank you, everybody, for joining in. It's Collins a Joke at Collins a Joke Real Life Experience. It's an amazing morning today, and it's a unique experience for this morning. I have a guest who is so special, and I know you'll be amazed and inspired to know about him as a person and the organization. Nice meeting with you.
Nice meeting you, Collins.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Yeah, our viewers would love to know who you are, what you do, and where we are today.
Okay, so to begin with, we are at the Gatehouse, which has been around for 27 years. So my function here is I am a coordinator for the men's program, but I will add this on top of that. I also am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, which brought me here to begin with. And I've been here 15 years, and I did the programs, and I stayed on volunteering after I did the programs, which led to, during the pandemic, all kinds of things changed. And one of the things that changed was I retired from my previous work, and then I came on board here. So I've been here with the Gatehouse as an employee for the last 4 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's nice to hear, Stuart. And wow, thank you for taking the courage to, one, to come in, two, to stay volunteering, and three is to give back. That is very important, because every time, like at Collins a Joke Real Life Experiences, we encourage people to talk about their experiences. It helps somebody else who is maybe going through the same trauma, who is going through the same difficulty, to get strength and energy to move on, to know that there is hope at the end of the tunnel, no matter what you've been through.
Thank you for saying hope, because that's what I truly do. I truly inspire others to see the hope that I got for myself, and the healing that I received through the time that I've been here. So thank you for mentioning hope, because that's what it's about sometimes. Because sometimes that's all we have.
Yeah. When you know that at least maybe I have the hope tomorrow will be brighter than today.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about more the Gatehouse.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the Gatehouse has been around for 27 years.
Yeah.
We when we originally opened, the founder, Arthur Lockhart, who recently received the Order of Ontario and is a retired professor of Humber College just behind us. So he came here and saw this house that was all broken down, it's dilapidated, with a big hole in the roof. If you would go to our website, which is thegatehouse.org, you would see there was with the pictures, there was a big hole in the roof. There was a fireplace sitting right behind you. People, there were homeless in here. People struggling with drugs. Yeah. And it was basically a flop house. So Art saw this sitting outside with one of his students, and said, his student said to Art, "Well, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had a place we can go and talk about our childhood sexual abuse?" And they just happened to sitting out here. It was a rainy day. And they saw this house and said, "Wow, maybe we can get this house." And then after that, well, they talked to the city, and I love Art when he talks about this, because he at that time he approached the city and said, "Well, how much will it cost to buy the house?" It was $300,000 at that time, 27 years ago. And well, so he went and he gave well, obviously he didn't end up buying it. We ended up leasing it. Yeah. But anyway, they agreed to like $1 or $2 a year for the lease. So that was really good. But we had to get the community to come together. Rather, he had to get the community to come together and help renovate the house. And that's precisely what they did. So it cost several $100,000 to fix up the house from being as dilapidated as it was. And created all these rooms, which I showed you earlier before we got started today.
So amazing.
Yeah. So after that, there was a bit of resistance in the community, saying that you cannot bring men and women into the same house that have had the same experience, or you can't have this in the community. You can't have men come here. Yeah. Well, lo and behold, 27 years later, the people that said no, you can't, here we are. And on top of that, like we do groups where we have men and women combined together, whether it be in a phase 1 program or the following up with the phase 2 program, which I can relate to later on if you like. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of how it came to be. Wow. When people said you can't do that, the founder did it.
Wow. This is so amazing about the gatehouse. And this takes me to my first question to you, Stuart. What inspired you to begin your journey at the gatehouse?
That's a really good question, because when I came here, I was very much a broken man. You know, as I mentioned, I'm a survivor of sexual abuse, but at that time I was struggling with addictions. I was homeless, and I was not in a good place, right? So I didn't. Life wasn't good. I was even suicidal. I sort of say that, but rather I shouldn't say I was sort of say that, but that's how horrible it was at the time. And I did not have any hope. I didn't have any self-worth. And for some reason, I was that close to doing whatever I was going to do. And then I went online, and thank God for the internet 15 years ago, because it was just kind of getting going, right? And I was able to find the Gatehouse, and actually I ended up finding the Gatehouse through another organization that's in Alberta. It's called Little Warriors. Wow. Right? Another organization I would suggest you look up if you want to find something else outside of Ontario. And they referred me to the Gatehouse, and then I remember coming here. I remember coming here doing my intake at that time, and it took me about an hour. I sat down with one of the counselors that were here, and you know, they asked me all kinds of questions. You know, it's no different than you would if you went into any other institution throughout Canada or any other place, I would think. And then right after, I remember in the new year of 2011, I started the program. It was a men's program. I remember sitting in the kitchen, and there's 8 other men sitting in there and 2 facilitators, and that's how it started to be where I am today. But it helped me in so many of ways. Like, it helped me find self-worth. It helped me find value in myself. Or, hard thing is, I like to say, I remember when I started beginning to find value in myself, and I could never say to love myself. So I'd always say I like myself. So now I'm at the point in the last years, especially since I've been clean of hard drugs for over 9 years now, I did find love in myself, and I can actually say I love myself, which is very hard to do. You know, I can't speak for others, but from others that I've seen, both men and women that have struggled with this, you know, we have very similar situations where we struggle with self-worth, and we find love for ourselves. But you know, the trouble with child abuse is that I don't care where you are in the world. One of the things it does is that what it does is it pushes us down where we have no self-worth. True. Because we're groomed and we're told not to talk about it, and you know, we're taught things which are not supposed to be taught to us as children. We're supposed to be children, not sexual beings at that age.
Yeah. Wow. And it brings a lot of trauma and self-denial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Stuart, someone is out there listening to us today and watching, and they have similarly walked the same journey. They may not be children at this point. How easy is it for someone to come to the Gatehouse? What would be the qualifications? What is required of them to come and be part of this healing program?
You know, that's a really good question as well, you know, and all I know is from my own experience to come here, it took courage and strength to walk. We always talk about those 5 steps. You didn't see it. You come in the back door, but if you were to go to look at the front door, which I would take, there's 5 steps that come up. Okay. Those were the hardest 5 steps of my life to come up here. Oh. Right, as far as I'm concerned, which I refer to all the time. And yes, it takes a lot of strength and courage to come forward, and there's a lot of stigma behind coming forward. You know, culturally, if you're a man, right, especially if you're a man, culturally, doesn't matter what country you're from, it's very much still a stigma and something that's not to be talked about. So when I talk about courage in those 5 steps, that's very much part of that, and then also wanting to, you know, I mean, I was just tired of living the way I was living. I was an addict, and I was homeless, as I pointed out, and I didn't see any self-worth or value in myself. So it's either I go this way, or do I keep staying in the same perpetual motion of, you know, denial didn't happen, shame and the guilt all behind that, or do I get help? And the beautiful part about this was, well, really, I had to initiate it myself. I had to make the phone call. I had to make the commitment of being here for the 15-week program and be here to do it. So therefore, if I talk about somebody wanting to come in and do this, well, it does take a lot of courage. And, it really depends on where you are mentally and physically when you want to do this. All I know is I was at rock bottom.
Wow.
Right. So, I mean, for me, it's not really for me to tell anybody where they should be to come here, other than if you've had this experience and you're feeling the things that I talked about, such as the shame being a really, really nasty thing, and you may have other things going on as well, then maybe it's time for you to look at yourself and say, well, do I want help, or do I want to stay in this crazy loop that I'm in that goes over and over and it just doesn't stop? Well, I went and got help, and granted, my abuse will never go away, but how I feel about myself will change. My perception of myself and how my perception towards others will change as well. Once we create boundaries and trust, with ourselves before we pass it on to others.
And it makes you have respect.
Yes, absolutely.
So much.
Yeah.
Like I always encourage us, it's always very important, as much as we need to help someone. I personally would love to reach my hand to everyone. But one important thing that I always encourage us, our viewers, our listeners, it starts with you. It's you who will accept, and it's you who will say yes to the help. It's you who knows the intensity of the pain, the gravity of the forces that come to you. So it's important for us to make right decision, mostly on finding help and looking out for help. It is very important. It helps. I mean, let's forget about looking at the surrounding, because you have your pain inside of you and it's killing you little by little. Before you have to say yes, you're thinking about your friends, you're thinking about your workmates, you're looking at people around you, and you're like, how will they see me? As you're telling me about the 5 steps, I'm just thinking about this person who is looking around and is like, who is seeing me coming here? But I mean, you're going for your healing. Because when you come in such an environment, and I mean, look at everyone around here with an amazing story, how they have walked a journey. Look at you, Stuart, an inspiration to the world.
I hope so. I really hope so.
Really, you are, because 5 years, 10 years, 15 years back, what would you be if you would be here still?
I have no idea. If I kept following the path that I was following, I would either not be alive, or I'd be on the street someplace, just living as an addict.
We may not ever had the chance to see you.
Yeah.
That's what I would think, because then and now, I mean, that time is quite a long time.
Yeah.
That means that the addiction itself would wear you down.
Oh, yes.
You may be alive, but I mean, you may be so broken and so broken. Because when you get in a state of self-denial, you don't have help, even care. I mean, the self-care is not there. And self-care, surrounded with self-care, we have eating well, feeding well. I mean, going for medical attention.
Yeah.
You may never have that come to your sense because you didn't look out for help. We need something stronger than our own self. But one step is take the step ahead and say yes to seeking help.
Yeah, but it's not easy to do, right? It's not easy to do.
Take the step.
When you're down and you're rock bottom, like I said, I was. Yeah. That's when I reached out. That was my limit, right? And I mean, everybody's going to be different, obviously, on how they'll approach to go and get help. But it makes another thing I'll throw in there that really makes it hard too. I mentioned culturally, but if you don't have the support of your family or friends on top of that, there's a lot of denial that goes on that. And with troubles with CSA experience, sometimes it's in the family, sometimes outside the family. It comes from all different directions. And therefore, we have a lot of barriers that stop us from coming forward and talking about it. Not just addictions, as an example, as I talked about, but when you don't have connection with family, there's all kinds of things that could stop you from, or barriers that would stop you from coming and getting help.
Because what would be the support would be the criticism. Someone would just push you every time. They tell you, how would you do this? Why do we do this? I mean, they would... I usually love, Mr. Gabo.
Yes, Gabe Mator,
Yeah, he tells us, and we know this very well, addiction in action is not about drugs alone.
No, it's about the root.
addiction is everything. That you're addicted to your phone.
Yes.
You're addicted to eating food. You're addicted to shopping. Like addiction is everything that will put your brain in a different order, right? So addiction is everything that we keep ourselves onto, and it goes beyond the normal.
And I love the example he gives, because he talks about how we collected music as an addiction. And I did the exact same thing. That was another addiction that I had. I've had many different addictions, but that was a great example he used, was addiction to the same one you're talking about when he talks about that.
Stuart, what are most of the common challenges survivors face when they come to the gatehouse, if you've had any?
Well, you know, I talked about addiction. There's a lot of denial and shame and feeling that, okay, am I worthy of getting help? Am I worthy of getting that kind of help? You know, and I mentioned also as well, you know, there could be other stigmas behind that, or whether you're male or female. Men a lot, well, we're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be strong. So we, you know, when I talk about outside supports, sometimes I've heard so many different stories from many people for many, many years. And I hear different things all the time that stop them from coming here.
Yeah.
And, you know, addiction being the big thing, right? And then the self-worth on top of that. Is my trauma as bad as the next person's? I hear that a lot too.
Oh.
Right, so people, what they'll do is they'll gauge, or rather they'll put a gauge on their trauma, thinking that, oh, my trauma is not as bad as that person, and maybe I should not be here.
They go into comparison.
Yes, exactly. And we call that trauma trumping. And one thing we do when people do that is we reinforce saying that reinforce that and telling the people also in the group that their trauma is just as valid as the person next to you. Right? So your story is just as important, and you have just as much right to be here as anybody else.
I don't know about your religious background, but I wanted to borrow something when you say that mine is better than. The Bible tells us that all sin is equal. So
I tend to agree with that.
Yeah, it stops us from pinpointing other people that you do this, I'm better off. I only took a spoon of sugar. You took money.
Yeah.
But like everything is equal. So you struggle. Don't look at somebody else.
Yeah.
Work on self.
But people do. People judge themselves according to what others see or don't see. And we see this all the time.
Wow.
We see this all the time.
And it's a very big hindrance.
Oh, it is. It's huge, huge. It stops people. I've seen people come here and think just as I described and walk out that door, and then them coming back, you know, whether it be a year later or 6 months later, because then they've gone even further down and they realize, oh, I got to do something for myself, or I'm going to be where I don't want to be, where I'm now, right?
Stuart, working with persons affected by trauma, has it affected you in any way, your outlook of things?
Well, you know, in the beginning of our conversation, we talked about hope. Yeah. And again, so what it does, you know, I've taken care of myself, and I have to constantly take care of myself with the type of work that I do. Yeah, self-care. We, you know, we constantly talk about self-care around here on top of the trauma. So, you know, I'm very, very honored for the staff that I work with. You know, our executive director, Maria Barcelos, and Karen, Jasmine, Aaron, Paula. You know, we're all very supportive staff. We have a very small staff here, but we're very, very supportive, and we push self-care like there's no tomorrow.
Amazing.
Right, and not just towards ourselves, but also we have placement students coming in here all the time. We need to make sure they're taken care of as well. We have 4 rotation students here. Now, let's talk about our participants coming in here. So when we talk about vicarious trauma, that's what you're kind of talking about. Yeah. So this is where the self-care comes in. So like I say, we hear a lot of stories, and some are very, very, very hard. And yes, it can be very traumatic for us as well. So, you know, trauma will travel from you to me, from your story. Yeah. So yes, we focus on self-care, and me, I you know, as far as me hearing them and hearing as many as I have, well, that's a really good question, because how do I handle all that trauma? I don't know. I do a lot of, I spend a lot of time, I live down here on the lake. So I spent a lot of time here in the water, and if I was up north, I would be in the bush or I'd be in the water. And to me, when you talk about God, well, I think of the Creator. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's my connection to the earth and the universe. So when I need to let that trauma go or that stress go, that's my go-to. So I'm like, when I go home at night, when I'm done here, I probably sit by the water pretty much most nights. It doesn't matter what the time of the year. I'll sit outside for about an hour, and either I'll meditate or I'll just sit there and I'll reflect on my day. And I do not take that trauma home with me. I leave that trauma here.
Oh, amazing.
Right. It took me some practice to do that. And I can't honestly say that there's some things that do not affect me deeply, but I don't know. I don't know whether I built resistance towards it or if that's even the right terminology for it. But yeah, I cope very, very well at hearing stories. And I've heard really a lot of horrible, horrible stories. I've read a lot of horrible stories, from people from all around the world, not just from here in Canada. That's how involved I've been in with this, how involved I've been with doing this all these years. And this is just part of the job, right? So it gives me hope because I hear other people doing the same things, same struggles that I went through, right? Different struggles, no matter where you're from. But it's also wonderful to see them in a rock bottom and then see them pick themselves up and see the light.
Stuart, this question is a little challenging, and I know you'll pass the challenge.
Okay.
Having talked about your story over and over and worked with different people going through similarly to what you've gone through, have you had any testimonies of people get better after hearing your story?
Yes, absolutely. We have. We often get that, which we're always asking for people for feedback.
Yeah.
And we constantly track that. That's also part of our funding that we need to do. We need to track. We always give out surveys when the participants are done. It doesn't matter what group they're doing. And we track all that. And we use that as part of our funding because we are a .org, or rather, we're not funded by the government. So we are funded strictly by grants and donations. And that's how we've survived all these years.
Wow.
Right? So this is how we track people's feedback, whether it be good or bad. We're not a perfect organization, and we're not like the other big ones. Like I don't need to mention them, but I don't need to mention the other big organizations that are funded.
You're an amazing organization.
Sorry?
You're an amazing organization.
Thank you.
The fact that I'm even here, you're amazing, and your service is felt. Yes, your service is felt.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Yes.
But we have to track all that, right? Yeah. And we want to hear good and bad.
To know where to improve and where
yes, exactly, right? So it's very important for us to track people coming in here, and you don't have to give us your name. Just if you don't like something, just tell us.
Yeah.
And maybe we could do something different so that the next person that comes in will have a better experience, or it doesn't have the same experience you had.
Wow.
Right? It's constantly learning and growing. Not just as an individual, but even as an organization. And other organizations I would hope, would follow the same suit. You can't go with what you did 20 years ago. It has to constantly change to people's values.
Yeah.
And
changing dynamics every time.
Yeah.
A lot of things change.
Yeah.
The way you handle people changes.
Exactly. And society has changed so much, even in the 15 years that I've been here. Right? There's a lot of things that have happened. We've been through COVID. The world's a whole different place, different pressures. So we're always having to, adjust.
Wow. Stuart, what message of hope would you share with anyone struggling silently?
Well, one, you don't have to struggle alone. There is people out there that are like that. I thought I was alone when I came here, and little did I realize I was far from being alone. I met people. I kept meeting people, just here in the Greater Toronto area that have had this experience. And denial doesn't help, but believing that I was alone was far from the truth. And if I'm going to, when I started talking with the other survivors that have been through this experience, this is kind of where the hope kind of set in as well. But I would tell others that if you feel alone, especially nowadays, when I first came here, I wouldn't have said that, but now I can say that you can find us online. We're easy to find, right? There's other organizations out there, not many that do what we do, but you don't have to be alone. I mean, I'm talking to you right here now. I'm sure that anybody else who might be watching this may have had the same experience. You don't have to be alone. You can reach out. There's I know primarily we deal with people only in Canada because of our insurance, but we know of other organizations around